Hello, boxing family and world. I'm coming back at you with another prediction video. So thanks for tuning in. But before I get into the content, I would just ask the usual that you would share, like, hit the bell notification. And as I always say, if you're watching, you might as well subscribe. So the fight I have for you in this video is coming from Austin Webb. Austin Webb has submitted several great fantasy fights, and he just keeps them coming. So the fight that he mentioned is one that I've thought about a few times, but for whatever reason, I've never covered it, and that is Roy Jones Jr. versus Sergey Kovalev at 175, light heavyweight. What a tremendous fight. And I truly believe that this fight would have been competitive if they had fought in the same era. They were both dominant in their respective eras, especially Roy Jones Jr. And before Roy had fought Antonio Tarver, Roy just seemed invincible, and it just seems like he was unbeatable. Roy Jones ruled the light heavyweight division, and he was truly king of that division. Sergey Kovalev was pretty dominant. Well, he was dominant for the longest time at light heavyweight. But there was more opposition. There was more competition there. And that's not to say that Roy didn't fight top-level opposition, but he was so good that he separated himself so far from his counterparts. As Roy said in his debut song, they're trying to say that I ain't fight nobody. I just make them look like nobody. And that was pretty much the case. Roy was truly a phenomenon. As far as Kovalev is concerned, he truly lived up to his name, the Crusher, because he was just crushing the competition. And Bernard Hopkins was the first one to go the distance with him. And no disrespect to Adonis Stevens, but Adonis Stevens ducked that man. He really did. We know it, and he knows it. But with that being said, who could really blame him? But that was just one of those championship fights that was supposed to take place. And unfortunately, we never got to see it. So we will always wonder how that fight would have played out. Oh, well. But getting back to Roy Jones Jr. and Sergey Kovalev, how would this fight play out? Who would win? Who has the advantages? Who's going to come out on top? Now, we have the speed, reflexes, footwork, hand speed, and unorthodox style of Roy Jones Jr., which gave his opponents lots of fits. And I'm wondering if Kovalev could establish or mount some sort of offense. Now, would Kovalev fall into the same traps as Roy's opponents at the time and follow Roy around the ring looking for an opening while Roy Jones Jr. just sits back and pot shots him? Strong possibility. Or could Kovalev establish his jab, control the distance, and measure Roy for a big right hand? Also a strong possibility. But one thing's for sure, Roy wouldn't be able to lean against the ropes like he does, or as he did his other opponents. I don't think he would be able to get away with that from Kovalev, because the Crusher has the power to split that guard. So the center of the ring is where Roy Jones Jr. must be. Roy must use his feints, his timing, his reflexes, and his counterpunching abilities. And Kovalev needs to jab and pressure and push Roy Jones against the ropes or in the corner. But another thing we must ask ourselves or consider is who would have the mental edge? And I think we know the answer to that question. A lot of times it seems that Roy had his opponents beat before they even stepped inside of the ring. And that would be a huge advantage for Roy. But could Roy withstand the power of Kovalev? And that is some crushing, devastating power. And I think the key for Kovalev in this fight is the jab. But my concern for Kovalev is, would he be able to pinpoint Roy and zero in on him? Because no matter how hard you hit, if there is no target, it really doesn't matter. Now, I will say that the Crusher has underrated boxing skills. He's just not a power puncher. I've mentioned his jab several times. He has a good 1-2 punch combination, a good counter puncher, and I like Kovalev's head movement. But no matter how much I try to get Kovalev into this fight, I just can't get around Roy Jones Jr.'s superior athleticism. And the more I talk about this fight, the more I think about Roy Jones' fight with David Telesco. That just keeps popping into my mind, and that may be for a reason. When Roy Jones Jr. was dominating at 175, he was just too much. So I'm going to have to give Roy the decision over Kovalev. Those are my thoughts. Please let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll be coming back at you soon.